What does that look like in terms of going outside of the typical healthcare system?
So, well, where to start and what to focus on? So, I suppose to start with what that entails. So, I brought on an integrative oncologist. We use my next generation sequencing in order to basically map out a plan of medications. I then, excuse me, excuse me. I then layered in a naturopath who's a brilliant lady called Dr. Randa King. Layered in the two of them together, having spoken to hundreds of people in this space because the two of them spoke my language. They were the sort of people who, instead of going, this is what you need to do, it was, look, this is where we're starting from. You tell us what you want to do, and we will jump on this ship with you. It was we will be part of your journey. You tell us what you need, not a do this because I said so. And I was fed up of do this because I said so. I had an oncologist in the NHS doing the do this because I said so. This is the fear I'm going to put you under and blah, blah, blah. So I needed people who were going to support me, who were going to hold me up. So stitching the two of them together, plus adding in next generation sequencing. I was also lucky to find a hyperbaric oxygen center just down the road from me, run by a fantastic lady called Louise Williamson. Unfortunately, they've since closed down and she's now focusing on online stuff, but they were just down the road from me and we've become firm friends through it. I sort of stitched all of this together, and in January, very roughly January 2025, I started my full protocol. And that meant 4 to 6, sometimes 8 hours a day, either sat in a hyperbaric chamber for 2 hours and then having high dose vitamin C intravenously injected into me. And I should also mention my partner retrained as a phlebotomist as part of this journey as well, so that she could cannulate me at home. And we had a really fantastic friend of ours called Jo, who happened to be a local nurse who oversaw her as well and jumped in when we needed to. So another lucky point for me. But we stitched all this together. I would sit in a hyperbaric chamber. I would sit in an infrared sauna. I would sit in front of a red light panel. I would sometimes box for an hour a day. You can see I'm sat in my gym at the moment. I would do high dose vitamin C. I would take off-label medications. I switched to a very low sugar vegetarian keto diet. We monitored everything that went into my body, made sure I was extremely well hydrated, made sure I was getting a certain level of exercise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I essentially made this my entire life for the next 9 or so months. And then from January, it took until, well, my next scan was in March. And by that first scan after I'd started my protocol, I'd gone from a nearly 10 centimeter primary tumor with secondaries and with lymph nodes all lit up all over the place. About as bad a prognosis, about as bad a diagnosis as you can get, to suddenly my metastases had all disappeared by March, within 3 months of starting my protocol. And my primary tumor had dropped by somewhere around 10 to 20, maybe even 30% at that point. And then by the summer of 2025, I had no visible signs of cancer. Everything had vanished. I'd had no surgery, nothing else on top. I had had the chemotherapy and I had had the immunotherapy. And then atop that, I'd had my own protocol. And by the end of the summer, so within 9 months, there was suddenly no cancer.